Hiya, I'm Rebecca. I'm here with Eva Simmons, who is running for Vice President Student Support at the SRC this year. So Eva, to start off, would you mind just telling us a bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm in fourth year at the moment at Glasgow Uni. I've been studying politics and sociology. I've been on the SRC for a year. I've been heavily involved in sort of sustainability campaigns at the uni, such as like writing the Green New Deal, pushing that through, and sort of campaigning for divestment of fossil fuels and arms companies.
Perfect. So first of all, why do you think that you are the best candidate for this position?
Well, I think I have a sort of really willingness to challenge the university and sort of really hammer in where I think it's not right and, where I think it's not meeting the students' needs. I think essentially a lot of this has to come from someone that understands the sort of machinations of the current university sort of centred around running as a business. And I think that sort of needs to be redirected to it being an institution of care, essentially. I think I've got quite a lot of contacts with the sort of current student population and what I have a feel of sort of what they need and what they want and how they need to be cared for. So, yeah.
Yeah, perfect. So in your opinion, what are some of the biggest issues that you think students are facing right now, and how would you plan to mitigate these?
Okay, so I think obviously mental health and the mental health crisis and sort of wellbeing has been accentuated massively due to the pandemic, but I think what that's actually really brought to light is that people's sort of mental health and wellbeing is quite fragile. The pandemic sort of just pushed it over the edge. So I think even post-pandemic, the university needs to be doing way, way more to sort of help students in that respect. And I think it's also really important to understand that mental health and wellbeing isn't just about sort of reactive procedures or dealing with it when it gets to crisis point, but sort of the processes before that, and also understanding that mental health and wellbeing is sort of fundamentally linked to issues like sort of tenancy issues, which I think is huge at the moment, and students are really, really facing issues with sort of housing and not being able to pay rent and inadequate living conditions, as well as sort of, feeling like that they're not being cared for in the way that they're facing sort of certain oppressions on campus, such as racial or gender-based violence. So these sort of all tie into, I guess, people's mental health and well-being, and that's why I would say that's the most important thing, but that encompasses sort of so much more, and we really need to understand the sort of ways that they interact with each other, the certain oppressions, and the university needs to just be doing so much more in so much of a wider field.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so sort of jumping off the back of that, in your manifesto, you said that you would like to expand and dedicate resources to mental health and wellbeing. So what are the steps that you would take to achieve this?
Okay, so I sort of hold consultations about where people think, what sort of areas are sort of missing the most in terms of I guess certain initiatives that are helping people with their mental health and well-being. And then I really hammer the university to increase funding to these, increase resources to these, and bringing in initiatives from other universities as well. I've been doing loads of research about what's working there. I think that's a great place to start. And, things like people stepping up as sort of mentors and getting trained to help others, I think is a really great initiative. I know the university do a little bit of that at the moment, but sort of expanding that and making it just more well known, because I think people really don't know where to turn, and that's such a tragic thing as well, that people then feel in the dark. But that's the university's responsibility. They need to give it to people rather than waiting for them to reach out.
So yeah, I'm sure you're familiar with the Mind Your Mate sessions that are being run through the SRC and stuff like that. Is that something that you would look to, increase its prominence on campus and make sure a lot of more societies and clubs know about it?
Yeah, definitely. And sort of, really, really encouraging people to step up to be a mentor, a mate minder, but also just, encouraging everyone to have those skills and sort of not mandatory at all, but really encourage training so that people sort of feel equipped to help people or flatmates or whoever if they feel like they're in a situation of need. But yeah, so yeah, expanding that. But I think there's also some really cool other initiatives that could be. I think stuff around sort of suicide prevention and stuff is obviously really sensitive, but I think needs to be a little bit more well known on campus, and that sort of needs to be developed a bit more.
Yeah, definitely. So my final question for you today, Eva, is how would you build upon the work undertaken over this past year by Ella?
Okay, so I mean, Ella's had such a tough time because obviously it's been a pandemic, and I think she probably hasn't, or yeah, I know that she hasn't managed to do sort of all the things that she wanted to do, but she has done, yeah, really amazing stuff. The drug awareness sort of campaign she was running was something that I'm really keen to follow on with as well, and I think I'd actually like to see that extended to actually the university providing sort of testing and safe testing of drugs, as well as carrying on the sort of campaign to increase people's awareness of the risks. But yeah, drug testing is something that's working at other universities, and I think as an institution of care, like I said, the university have a responsibility to help students that are undertaking such activities in a sort of safe manner. Yeah, there's been sort of a lot of evidence that drug and alcohol consumption has massively increased during the pandemic, especially students using it to sort of self-medicate. And I think this really needs to be talked about. And I think it's still sort of on the fringes of a taboo subject, and it needs to be talked about, and people need to be looked after if that's, you know, the situation that they're finding themselves in.
Yeah, 100%. Well, that is everything. Thank you so much for chatting with us today, Eva. And yeah, all the best. Good luck.